The vacation doesn't have to get worse just because you want to spend less. You can stay in the same city, eat at the same types of restaurants, visit the same attractions, and have basically the same trip. And still spend hundreds, sometimes over $1,000 less. The problem is that most people try to save money at the wrong stage. They book the cheapest flight they can find. Then they realize the airport is 2 hours away. The baggage costs extra. The hotel is cheap, but breakfast isn't included. Then they arrive and start paying for taxis, overpriced food, attraction tickets, and random little expenses they never budgeted for. Suddenly, that cheap vacation isn't cheap anymore. So let's say you're planning a $3,000 trip. The goal isn't to turn it into a $1,500 trip where you're sleeping somewhere terrible and eating instant noodles. The goal is to find the $3,000 trip hiding inside a $2,000 budget. And the first place to look is the biggest expense, the flight. Don't start by searching for a specific airline and immediately booking the cheapest ticket you see. Start with a total journey. Check multiple nearby airports if they're realistically accessible. Check different departure dates. Even moving your trip by a day or two can sometimes change the price dramatically. But here's where people make a mistake. They see a flight for $200 less and immediately book it. Then they discover the cheaper flight leaves at 6 a.m., requires an expensive transfer, charges for baggage, and arrives so late that they need another night at the hotel. Your $200 saving just disappeared. So compare the door-to-door cost, not the flight price. Flight, baggage, transport to the airport, transport from the airport, and any extra hotel night the schedule creates. Now you found the real price, and you should do the same thing with your hotel. Don't automatically choose the cheapest room. Calculate the total stay. Room price, taxes and fees, breakfast, parking, resort or destination fees, if applicable. And most importantly, location. A hotel that's $40 cheaper per night might cost you $30 every day getting into the city. For a 5-day trip, you've just turned a $200 saving into basically nothing. That's the pattern we're looking for throughout the entire vacation. Don't ask, what's the cheapest option? Ask, what's the cheapest way to get the trip I actually want? Because those are completely different questions. And once you understand that, you can start cutting the cost without cutting the experience. You arrive at the destination, the flight was booked, the hotel was booked, and then the small expenses begin. You're hungry, so you grab a $20 meal. You're thirsty, so you buy a $5 drink. You need sunscreen, so that's another $15. You take a $30 taxi because you're tired. None of these feels like a big purchase, but 5 days of this can easily add hundreds of dollars to your trip. So before you leave, decide where you're actually willing to spend. For food, don't try to make every meal cheap. Pick the meals that matter. Maybe breakfast is simple, lunch is casual. Then you spend more on dinner somewhere you actually want to try. You still get the experience without paying tourist prices 3 times a day. And for snacks, drinks, and basic supplies, buy them from a supermarket near your hotel instead of constantly buying them at airports, attractions, or tourist areas. That $3 bottle of water doesn't feel expensive. Buy it 10 times and suddenly you've spent $30 on water. Then there are activities. This is where people often save the wrong way. They skip the $100 experience they've been looking forward to, then spend $40 on random things because they don't know what else to do. Instead, choose your top 3 activities before the trip. Budget for those, then fill the remaining time with free or cheap things. Walk around, visit parks, explore neighborhoods, find viewpoints, check for free museum days or local events. You're not sacrificing the trip. You're cutting the expenses that weren't important to you in the first place. Transportation works the same way. Before using taxis or ride shares everywhere, check the local public transportation. But don't automatically choose the cheapest option. If a $10 train saves you an hour of walking and gets you directly where you need to go, it may be worth it. And if a cheap hotel requires $25 in transportation every day, the hotel wasn't actually cheaper. That's the rule for the entire trip. Don't compare prices. Compare total costs. A $200 cheaper flight isn't cheaper if it creates $250 of extra expenses. A $40 cheaper hotel isn't cheaper if you spend $200 getting around. And a $100 cheaper activity isn't cheaper if it's the experience you actually wanted. The goal isn't to make your vacation as cheap as possible. It's to stop wasting money on things you don't care about, so you can spend it on the things you do. Now you've cut the obvious costs, but there's one more place your vacation budget gets destroyed: the things you didn't plan for. You arrive at the airport and realize your bag is overweight. $80. Your hotel charges for parking. $30 a night. You need an adapter. $25. Your phone doesn't have the right data plan, so you start paying roaming charges. Another unexpected bill. None of these costs were part of the vacation you imagined, but they become part of the vacation you actually pay for. So before you leave, do a "what could go wrong?" Check. Look at your flight. Does the ticket include the baggage you need? If not, add the baggage cost before booking. Check the hotel. Is there a security deposit, parking fee, city tax, resort fee? Don't assume the advertised room price is the final price, then check your transportation. How are you getting from the airport to the hotel? How are you getting back? What happens if your flight arrives after public transportation stops? Have a backup, because paying $70 for an emergency taxi is a lot more painful when you thought your transportation budget was $20. Then there's your phone. Before traveling internationally, check what your mobile plan actually includes. You don't want to discover the answer after you've already used your data. And pack the boring stuff. Chargers, adapters, medication you normally need, toiletries, anything you're likely to buy at an airport or tourist shop because you forgot it. The goal isn't to pack your entire house. It's to avoid paying convenience prices for things you could have brought or bought cheaply beforehand. And then create one final category in your budget: the mistake fund. If your planned trip costs $2,000, don't make $2,000 your absolute limit. Leave some room. Maybe you budget $2,200. That way, if dinner costs more than expected or you need an unexpected ride, the entire trip doesn't suddenly become a financial disaster. And here's the important part. If you don't use that extra money, you haven't wasted it. You've bought something valuable. Certainty. Because the cheapest vacation isn't the one where absolutely nothing goes wrong. It's the one where something goes wrong and you can handle it without pulling out your credit card and hoping you'll figure it out later. So before you book anything, take 15 minutes and build the trip backward from the amount you actually want to spend. Start with your total budget. Let's say it's $2,000. Don't immediately spend $1,000 on flights and figure out the rest later. Give every major category a limit: flights, hotel, transportation, food, activities, extra expenses. Then compare the total, not individual prices. If the flight is $100 more, but saves you $150 in baggage and transportation, take the more expensive flight. If the hotel costs $50 more per night, but eliminates $30 a day in transportation, calculate the difference before deciding. If an attraction costs $100, but it's the one thing you'll remember from the trip, don't automatically cut it. Cut the things you won't remember. That's how you save serious money without making the vacation feel cheap. And before you leave, do one final check. Flight, baggage included. Hotel, all taxes and fees included. Transportation, airport transfer planned. Phone, international charges checked. Food, daily budget decided. Activities, priorities chosen. Unexpected costs, money set aside. If you've done that, you're no longer hoping the vacation stays under budget. You've actually planned for it. And that's how you can take the same trip, have the same experiences and potentially save hundreds or even around $1,000 without spending the entire vacation thinking about money. Because saving on travel isn't about asking, what's the cheapest option? It's about asking, what am I paying for that doesn't actually make my trip better? Cut those costs. Keep the experiences. And let your money pay for the vacation you'll actually remember.